yours. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 92.
92.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What is the topic?
This is remote viewing.
Remote viewing.
Yes.
Cool.
This is an interesting and fun topic, I think. I like it.
Right. So it's not like RC remote cars.
No. When you Google it, it brings up like a whole lot of things like remote viewing of computers, like through apps and stuff. And I was like, there's a lot of weird stuff out there. So yeah, but
cool.
No, none of that.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So before we do, anything from last week?
I do. I have quite a few things from last week
Nice.
to talk about, actually. Let's start with the fact that this week we hit 10,000 downloads on our show.
Very cool.
So thank you, everybody that helped us reach that number.
Nice. Thank you.
A really cool number to reach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thought that
Thank
was
you, people.
cool. Yep. And then let's see. I wanted to read this email that I got. This was about last week's show. It says, Hi, Samantha and Danny. My name is Jahan. I live in India and have been listening to your podcast for about 6 months. I haven't written in until now because I'm a little shy and didn't want to sound stupid. Please know that you never send anything to us that will make you sound stupid.
Jihad was their name?
Jahan.
Jahan.
Jahan. I went to school with a girl in elementary school with that name, and I've never heard another one before.
It's a cool name.
Since then.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, please
Very
don't.
Pretty. So don't feel stupid. We love these kind of messages. So anyways, moving on. The more I listen to your podcast, the less shy I get about talking about these subjects, even with people I don't know. There is something about the energy you two have that makes me feel comfortable sharing with you. I love your topics and your openness to share your outlook on these topics. The episode about astral projection was really great. I have been astral projecting since I was a kid. It's something that in my culture isn't frowned upon, and it is used by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I don't do it as often as I used to when I was younger. Sometimes it happens without me trying. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I would astral project to my favorite places. I could see what my parents were doing while I was asleep. It helped me to better understand the spirit world and myself. I wanted to tell you not to be frightened by sleep paralysis. It can't hurt you. If you remind yourself of that while it's happening, you will go through it much faster and without distress. If you want any tips or help on the subject, please feel free to email me back. Thanks again for putting such a diverse yet relatable podcast for someone like myself. It's a pleasure to be a part of your audience, Jahan.
Ah, thank you, Jahan.
That's
so nice.
That was a very nice email.
They were talking about that, some of the research we did about that's a big part of Indian culture.
Yeah.
Is they almost use it as a recreational thing.
Right.
Like they go to school to learn how to do it.
Exactly.
And it's sort of more, I don't want to say just for fun, but
that's what they said.
Yeah, it was just sort of like for experience.
I could see that. You're just like, well, instead of just going to sleep tonight, let's go see what mom and dad are doing.
I'm really jealous, Jahan. I wish that our culture taught that. I wish that it taught us this element about our existence and what we really are.
Yep.
And so I envy you. My hat's off to you that you got to learn that at a young age.
Me too. Absolutely. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different. It's interesting how different it is in the different cultures. Here it's like people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I wish that we were more open and understood more about it here.
Totally.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I thought that was really cool. And I'll take you up on that. Because I would love to learn how to astral project. I'm still, every time that I try, I just fall asleep. It's not easy. I'm like, okay,
right.
I'm awake in the middle of the night, wide awake. Okay, I'll go back to sleep now. And astral project, no.
Right.
Just snores be over here. Yeah. But yeah, I'll probably be emailing you, Jahan. Thank you for that offer. I appreciate it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. A couple other things. We now officially have a TikTok.
Yeah.
Our TikTok name is @SpiritualJoneses, just like everything else. So far, what I've done on our TikTok is like tarot card pulling and oracle cards and pendulum and stuff like that. But we're going to do like a wide variety of stuff on there. I'll have stuff for the show, maybe even like behind the scenes kind of what we're doing here, showing our studio or whatever. But cool. So keep an eye on our TikTok.
Nice.
And then we had a couple of really interesting experiences this week that we wanted to share. We have a lot of, what should we call them, paranormal activity and things that happen to us. But sometimes there's things that stand out to us that, really stand out. Would you like to tell yours first?
Oh, yeah. Well, part of the sort of process of communicating with the other side, as we've talked about in a lot of different episodes, has a lot to do with different things, whether it's a feeling, or maybe the hair stands on the back of your neck.
Yeah. Seeing numbers.
Yeah. You get a taste of something like, popcorn, which happened to be this person's favorite thing.
Yeah.
Or a smell. And that's what I happened to get the other day. I lost a pretty good friend of mine since junior high school recently. His name was Rob. We used to call him Robbie. But I was moving a dog bed from one room to the other into the studio because our dogs like to hang out in here with us, as we've mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And I was dropping the bed down, and I got a very strong smell of cologne. But, I just didn't – I'm like, no, And so I just dropped the bed down, and I walked in the garage, and I'm like, is it – because sometimes I can smell when the neighbors are doing, drying with fabric softener. It's very strong. Mm-hmm. And for a minute, I thought it was that. So I walked in the garage, and I smelled. And then I stepped into the kitchen, and I was like, no. And then I actually went and stood where I dropped the bed again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't smell it. And I lift the bed up. It's a dog bed, so it shouldn't smell like cologne.
No, we don't use it like cologne.
Smells like a giant 160-pound Great Dane, which isn't always pleasant.
No.
And so I smelled that, no. And it was no, I don't smell it again. And then it was one more quick whiff, and it was gone.
Yeah.
So I had said to Samantha, she was in another room, came walking in. I said, God, this is really weird. She's kind of looking at me. I'm like walking around in circles, sniffing, like,
do you smell that?
Emma, do you smell that? And she's like, no, I don't. I said, wow, you don't even smell fabric softener, do you? Nope. I was like, wow, that was incredible. It was so prominent, so right there. And so I said to her, I think somebody was here. Like, well, I don't think. I know somebody's here.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious of who it is because the cologne was so just gnarly.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, who do I know? I just, and for some reason, Robbie popped into my head.
Yeah.
Because I do remember him always having like this line of cologne on his dresser or something, and so I said that to you, and you walked back in the kitchen to do whatever you were doing and happened to open your phone, open up Facebook, and the very first post that you see, the very first thing you see was basically somebody asking, do you ever
smell your loved
ones, or perfume or colognes or foods that they loved, or and that was just like boom, like it was like a big slap across the face, like yeah, it was Robbie.
Yeah, I knew it was Robbie too. I had, actually, when it came in, at first it was Rob, and then the E came out.
Yes.
It's funny how that works like that for me. But yeah, that was really cool. And
well, that's because I have another friend that that passed away, Rob, and so I think he was trying to distinguish, like,
exactly.
No.
Different one, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've had those too, and I just love that when that happens. Sometimes, unfortunately, I smell dog poop. And that, because I used to be a pet sitter, and so I would get like a warning almost that the dog needed to go out. And it took me a while to figure out that was what was happening. It wasn't on the bottom of my shoe. Yeah. But if our listeners, if those things happen to you, those definitely, your loved ones, your friends, whatever, some message coming through for you for whatever reason.
Right.
I think for Robbie, it was him just letting you know he's here and saying hi.
Yeah, because he has sort of recently passed, and I think maybe there was a point where you tried to connect with him. You did connect with him, but he was sort of quiet, or their energy's lower.
Their energy's lower.
They're resting, kind of thing. And so I think that was sort of like, I felt like he was sort of like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of out and about now.
Yeah.
And just let me know. It felt good.
Yep.
It was nice.
Yeah. it was a cool experience. I'm glad that you had that.
Yeah, it was.
First smell.
Yeah, it was cool. Like a nice, like, whoa, there's undoubtedly, it's not there.
Yeah.
It was so there.
Because it happens to me sometimes that I'll tell you, do you smell that? And you're like, no. And I'm like, he must think I'm nuts.
Well, he was a smoker, so I think he overdid the cologne a lot.
Yeah.
Because he was a cigarette smoker. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I'm talking like Brutes and Old Spice, so they weren't like top-notch colognes. That's why it struck me.
Noir and stuff.
Yeah, it just struck me just like as, whoa.
Yeah. Funny.
But anyways, that's my story.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to it.
It's a good one. Okay. And then my story is that I have been asking for a long time, asking my mom to bring me a medium. Bring me a medium for me. I need somebody that I can go to talk to them, to get the messages that I'm not picking up or things that they need to say through somebody else.
Right.
I've been asking for this for a while.
Right.
And it happened.
Yeah.
It finally happened. And it was so just out of the blue because I'm in this group. It's like a learning group. And there's a post that they have where you can put your picture and they take a couple of people a week and they have the group do readings for them. So this week they asked if I wanted to, be that person. And it's like, great, let's do it. So this girl commented on the post and she felt my grandmother, Kitty, come through. And she was so accurate about this. It was absolutely insane. She was the first medium ever to pick up on the fact that my grandmother had 2 names.
She's
that
incredible.
She had abilities. Yeah. So she ended up doing a private reading for me. And I have to tell you that I was just absolutely blown away. Blown away. Like finding myself going, damn, am I this good? Do I make people feel like this?
I think you do.
I hope so.
I think you do.
I do. I hope
think
so.
When it's being done for you, it's impressive. It makes you kind of rewind back to maybe that very first moment when you realized it, you know, or it was really happening.
Yep.
Kind of gives you that same feeling. You're sort of in awe.
Right.
And you were reading, I was standing in the room and you were kind of reading me a lot of...
It was actually recorded. I was letting you listen to it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She was saying it. That's true.
Yep.
So I was getting to hear it sort of real time as it was coming in and I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah.
This girl is connected. Like, she really knows. She's talking to him.
And you know what? It was so healing for me because my grandmother hit on so many things. It was absolutely amazing. I've talked about before that I had a Vicodin addiction. And these last couple of weeks, I've had a jaw infection and I had a tooth that needed to be root canaled. And the dentist offered me Vicodin. And I took the prescription and I told you I was thinking about it. But I decided not to. Right. I gave it back to him. And then they asked me again the other day when I finished the root canal, what do you want? Do you want Vicodin? No, I don't want it.
Right.
My grandmother addressed that in this reading, telling me how it dulled my light that I did that and how not to fall into that again and how she's proud that I did what I did, that I refused it.
Yep.
And it was just like, whoa. I mean, there was nobody in the world that knew those types of things.
And that's a very recent
It was
thing.
just amazing. I was just,
It's very recent too. So that's
very recent.
For you.
Yeah. So very recent. It was very healing. And so, as a medium, like people talk to me and I do readings for them. And for me, it's so normal that I don't really see the amazement in it until I'm on the other side.
Right.
So I'm telling you, people listening, whether it's me or somebody else, go see a medium if you have these kinds of feelings that, you need to get past these things that need to be said. My grandmother said a lot of things that she needed to say.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that story so that our listeners know that this is something that is so healing, and
it really is.
It's a good point in asking for what you want and believing that it'll come to you. Because I knew it would. I knew that whenever they found the right person for me, that they would connect us. And not only is she the right person for me, but she needs help with animal communication. And so I'm going to help her with animal communication, and she's going to work with me on some of the things that I need to work with my ancestors to get past this like ancestral karma type stuff.
Right.
So I'm excited.
Right.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
She is
incredible. I want a
I'm-
reading. She's incredible.
Yeah, I'm not saying her name only because she's not out of the closet.
Right.
She keeps this very hidden because of where she lives. She's concerned. So I'm hoping one day she will be comfortable enough to come out of the closet because she is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, she is.
But yeah. So those are our stories.
And we're sticking to it.
Yeah, we are.
Cool.
Yep. So
All right. Are we ready for episode 92?
I think so.
Remote viewing.
Remote viewing. This is a really cool topic, and it's actually something that the government has used. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different agencies that use this. The CIA, they say that they don't anymore, but I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
You don't really have to have special abilities for this. What you need is the patience to develop it.
Yeah, the ability to tap into it. Exactly.
Okay, so what is remote viewing? Remote viewing is the ability to acquire accurate information require accurate information about a distant or non-local place, person, or event without using your physical senses or any other obvious means. I can't read my own writing. I should type it all out because I'm like, what is that word? I'm like, a distant. Okay. Anyways, so we've talked about before, like clairvoyance and clairaudience and those types of things. Mm-hmm. This is actually using clairaudience. And clairaudience is the ability to gain information about an object, person, or location, or a physical event through extrasensory perception.
So it is kind of a form of mental telepathy.
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly what it is. And that's why we had talked about next week. I said I want to do telepathy next week because these do kind of fit together. So, yes, I do believe that there can be a connection, too, between that person that's seeing these things and the person that is observing through the person.
Right. I wouldn't say it's full-blown telepathy, because it's more categorized how we've titled it, which is what it's called. But it's still that form of, like when we've talked about before, thinking about something and they're on my mind.
Yes.
Or someone, excuse me, not something. And they're on my mind, and then boom, here comes a phone call or a text from them.
Yeah, that's a form of telepathy.
Yeah, you're like talking to them.
Right.
And you guys are technically subconsciously talking to each other.
Right, exactly. The difference between natural psychic clairvoyance and remote viewing is that remote viewing is a controlled process that the average person can learn to do with patience. So really, it is, you just have to, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's more about just tuning into, like, what, I don't know how to explain it, but we'll get into it.
But
tuning into the place more than the person, so to speak.
But, like, for you do this when you're searching for lost pets a lot,
yes,
right?
I do.
Okay. So you're trying to tune into the animal's energy, right? You need some sort of something to anchor your focus to, correct?
Yes.
Or could you just be like, I'm going to go remote view South Africa for 5 minutes?
I've never tried to do that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this remote viewing. It's not just even necessarily about a location. But I'm not really sure, like what you're asking. I'm sure I could if I tried. I could probably, but I don't know. I'd have to, how do you confirm that?
But it would make sense if you have an energy you're focusing on in a location.
Right, exactly.
Because, most of the time you're supplied with like and I don't even think you really need this at this point, but they'll give you a picture of their animal.
Yeah.
And, my kitty ran away. Okay. Yeah. And then so you're honing in on this animal's energy and then starting to sort of, this is where it trips me out. It's like, are you seeing what the animal's seeing, or are you literally kind of just seeing around it?
I believe that I'm seeing what the animal is seeing. Okay. I see from their point of view. Right. I see not only what they're seeing at that moment, but I see things along their journey. The way that I look at this is that, and I could be wrong about this, but when I'm seeing through their perspective, that's the remote viewing. But when I'm seeing the things, like the visions of things that they've passed along the way, that those are more psychic pictures than remote viewing. But there's several different types of remote viewing, and some of the most common I'm going to tell you about. One of them is called associative remote viewing, and this is primarily used to view events where there are two or more possible outcomes, such as like betting, like on horse racing, like sports betting, the stock market. I do not use my abilities for that. Right. I don't think that they're meant for that. Is it possible? Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But I don't.
I think it's bad karma.
Frown upon that. Yeah. Like, that's just not the way it's supposed to go. These abilities aren't supposed to be meant to get you ahead like that,
Well, and I think there's a reason why a lot of these abilities were much more prominent in earlier civilizations in our lives and then vanished because we abused them.
We did.
And that was the way of the universe going, okay, guess what? Clean slate.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that have these abilities are because it's known by the other side, by their spirit guides, that they're not going to abuse them.
Right.
You know, I take life way more seriously with them.
Right.
Like, this might have not seemed like such a bad idea to me. I can remote view and see, like, which slot machines, you know. I would never now. Right. I would never even think about it. It kind of changes you.
Well,
you know,
it's having morals, you know,
exactly,
and doing for the greater of good.
Exactly, not abusing a system. One of the other ways is called extended remote viewing, and this is where you use like a hypnotherapist or somebody else to kind of sit in, and the viewer lies down, and then the hypnotherapist or whoever writes down what the viewer sees.
That's what Dolores Cannon does.
Yes, that's very.
She is, you know, I don't know if she ever came out and said she was connected at some point in her life, but in her book she always says, I don't have any of these abilities. I'm not psychic.
But she did remote viewing,
but she said, I have these patients that I can hypnotize and put them into a place, and they take me to where they want to go.
Right.
And where they end up is other lives, telling me about other lives.
Yeah. Yeah. This, I think it would be more like let's say that you want to, if I wanted to find a cat or something, right? And then I'm relaxing there and you're sitting and you're writing down everything, you know. But some people need to be kind of put under where I can put myself under. I don't need somebody else, you know. So I think that's where this hypnotherapist comes in, is that some people need to be put under. Let's see. And then there's controlled remote viewing. And this is kind of, I actually did this. I practiced this with 3 people. And this is where you kind of go through stages of developing what you're seeing. You're going through trying to view things in shapes, trying to pick out colors. They really tell you with this remote viewing not to try and see the big picture. Like, you want to go for the colors first and for the shapes and not for the exact things, you know. I didn't know that when I first tried this with a couple of people. And so it was interesting for me to kind of play with it and see what happened after I did know about that.
That's interesting. It would be like squinting your eyes where you just see like a general vision kind of.
Yep. Well, let me tell you about a couple of the ways that I did that I experimented with this. I took 3 different listeners. Jahan was one of them since she messaged.
Oh, cool.
We had talked about that. So she did this for me. And then, let's see. Chelsea. Let's start with Chelsea. So Chelsea, I asked her to go and grab something for me and just to hold it. And I immediately got that it was cylinder shaped, like a cup. It was cylinder, round. And I said, is it cylinder and round? And she said yes. And I said, is it a cup? And she said yes. And then before I had a chance to test anything else, she said it was a black cup, so a black coffee mug. So we just stopped there. Instead of me trying to figure out, I probably would have tried to figure out more of what she was seeing.
That's pretty accurate though, out of anything you could pick up.
Yep. And then I asked her to go grab something else. And this is where it kind of got confusing, because I was seeing several different things. I was seeing something red. I thought it might have been like a red ball, but I was definitely seeing the color red. And then I was seeing a book, and I was seeing something flat, like a coaster, right? And she said, you're describing everything that's in front of me, except for the one thing that I grabbed, right? She wasn't holding on to it. She had the object that she went and got. She put it on the table. So I couldn't focus on what was in her hand because she wasn't holding on to anything. So I had to focus. I was focusing on what was around, and I was seeing everything that was around. The flat thing that I saw, the coaster-like thing, I think was her table. On the table was a book, and then there was a red tote next to her. I don't know. We didn't figure out the ball, if there was something related to a ball. But there was everything that I said. There was something there that correlated to it.
So
except the brush.
In your vision, when you're doing this, during your viewing, are you seeing it from Chelsea's or whoever's point of view? Or are you sort of as if it was like a scene on a television? Are you seeing her sitting there and what's sitting around her, or are you kind of seeing what her vision would look like?
This was very different. This was very, very different than what I do with animals. What I do with animals also is incorporating the telepathy, which I do have with some people, but that's not what I was using here. Here I was using more of this technique of looking for shapes in different things. I wasn't looking at what the big picture was.
Okay.
I was just looking for the shapes of things that I saw.
Okay.
And one of the things that I saw was like, I thought it was a coaster. It may have been a coaster, but I just said flat. And I think that was the coffee table is what I was seeing. And then I did see the book. I saw a book. But I think I figured that because of the shape of it,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing more shapes and colors than the actual picture of it.
Right.
I also did an experiment with an app. It's a really cool app. It's called Remote Viewing Tournament, and I just started it. They give you like 2 different remote viewing things to try a day. Okay, so the first one that I tried, it just gives you a code. Okay, there's no picture, there's no box, there's no anything to look at. It just gives you a code, and you're supposed to tune into that code and remote view what you're seeing. Well, what I saw was water and rocks and like a stream, okay?
Well, hold on. When you say code...
Whatever, it's just like letters and numbers.
Okay.
It's not anything in particular. I think there was like 6 letters or whatever.
Okay, go ahead.
It was very confusing to me. I'd never done it that way before, but I was like, all right, well, just tune into whatever this code is that they're giving you, And so then you go to the next screen and you can draw or you can write down the words. And so I drew a stream with rocks on the side of it, and I can't remember, and dirt or something. I can't remember what it was. So then when you're done with what you think it looks like and you click next, it brings up 2 different pictures. And one of those pictures is the remote viewing that you were supposed to be seeing, right? So for me, it came up an ice skater and it came up a turtle. It came up a red-eared slider, and red-eared sliders live in water and they like to hang out on rocks in streams, okay?
That's funny.
So then I was like, whoa, okay, so that makes sense. Like, I understand why I saw those things. I wasn't seeing the turtle. I wasn't seeing the picture of the turtle, where a lot of times you might see a shape. You might see this, the circle of the shell or, the head or whatever. You might see more of that. I was seeing where the turtle might live. My thing is I'm impatient. And when I was done with that, I didn't let it keep going.
Right.
I need to slow down and stop and let these things progress more and just see where they go. And so I'm going to start working on that a little bit more, because I think if I would have just sat with it and not thought that it was this stream, and I think I would have got the turtle part of it too.
I'm still fascinated with how you're supposed to tune into a code.
Yeah. It's just, I don't...
And then whatever comes to your mind after tuning into a set of numbers and letters?
Yeah. I don't know.
I wonder if they're trying to prove, is that picture have that number on it?
Well, that's what the code of the picture is, yeah.
Right, okay.
So I guess instead of tuning into we answered your question
You're
right there. I don't need
information.
Right, I'm tuning into information, not necessarily a person. So there's different
or a
ways
location.
Right. There's different ways of doing it.
Right.
This was new to me. This was very interesting. I tried a lot of different things. There's a website also that does that. It's called greaterreality.com, and at the top of the screen there's like 10 or so different codes, and you can click on the code, and then you're supposed to, like I said, tune into that and write down and draw everything that you see, and then you go to the next screen, and on this one it shows you what it is. Like this one I have to wait until later to know if I was right, but I know that turtle was the one because it just made sense. It wasn't the ice skater. There's no way. That didn't make sense with what I saw or what I drew. So, but I won't find out until later with that one. Where with this greaterreality.com, you find out right away. And that one was cool because there was one where I saw like a round, I thought it was a boat. It was a round puddle or place of water, like maybe, I don't know, I just saw round, and I saw sand, like, around this thing of water, and I thought that it was a boat. Well, what it ended up being was like a mud pit, and there was a mud pit with sand all around it, and there was a guy jumping into it. So it wasn't a boat, It was a guy. But I saw the one figure. I knew there was one thing right there.
In the middle, kind of.
Right. So it's,
That's incredible.
It's a really interesting science. I'm enjoying experimenting with this, for sure.
Right. And can you call it science? Because science doesn't recognize it.
Whales.
How do we define what it is? If it's not
right. It's
spirit.
Yeah, it's metaphysics.
Yeah.
But it actually, like I had mentioned, it does have a history of being used by our government, and I'll give you a little bit of information on that. You had mentioned we did watch something on Hitler and
World War II. I think both sides were using it, but I know that I'm pretty sure that Hitler was using psychics to remote view.
Yes, I don't believe the United States was, because according to my research, this wasn't developed within the government until the 70s, the 70s.
Oh.
Now, they could be lying about that, but Hitler did use psychics, and I believe that he did use the remote viewing as well. But they were also much more advanced on those things than we were, so it wouldn't surprise me if it took, well,
they were trying to build a flying saucer at the same time, so
exactly
they were definitely into other ideas.
Yes, so it wouldn't surprise me if they had already figured out the remote viewing.
Right.
But what I found is that during the Cold War, through the 70s and 80s, remote viewing was developed by the U.S. military and the CIA. The experiments conducted were successful according to those who participated, although the CIA claims that it didn't go their way. But of course, they're going to say that, Some of the examples of things that they got to help them were highly accurate and detailed descriptions of buildings, facilities that were hundreds of miles away from the remote viewers. They were able to even find people this way.
Right.
The person that discovered this, called remote viewing, his name is Ingo... Dong, I believe that's what it is. And he was a psychic and an author and an artist. And he was the one that so-called discovered this and kind of perfected it and put it to use. And then the military, he worked with the military on this. There's something called the Stargate Project. In 1991, this was the secret name for an army unit that used remote viewing. The project was terminated and declassified in 1995 after the CIA said it wasn't useful. However, people involved said otherwise. And there's a 2004 book and a 2009 film, both titled The Men Who Stare at Goats. It's with George Clooney, Jeff Bridges, and Kevin Spacey, and I want to watch it so bad. I put on my Facebook, asked if anybody had seen it, and Sherry, who's one of our listeners, and helps us all the time, she's like, I saw it. She's like, it's more like a funny, and so I watched the trailer of it, and they're totally like, the Army's like, you are going to be our psychic team. You're going to use these psychic abilities, and there's one part where they're all staring at these goats in a room, and they're all staring at the goats, and all of a sudden one falls over. So I think it's probably going to be a funny movie. I want to see it. So yeah, that's a little bit about how, it was used for a little while, at least in our military. I think they still use it. I think police use it too. Yeah. I mean, you don't hear about that kind of stuff because, they don't want to admit, the police or whoever, they don't want to admit that they use this type of thing. But if you ever saw the show Medium with, was it Patricia Arquette?
Yeah.
The old amazing show, by the way. That was a wonderful show.
Yeah, it was.
She worked for the police department, I believe, somewhere in Arizona. So these things happen. This was a true story. That show was based after her life. These places do use psychics. They do use remote viewers, whether they want to admit it or not. This actually does work.
Yeah,
it really does.
Why they don't want to admit it or, say it's a viable source of information, I don't know. Even though full well that people have proven it to them time and time again. Right.
I think it's just like aliens, it's almost like they let a little bit of information out. Like, well, we kind of know this. We kind of know this. Because, I don't know, maybe they don't want people using that more. Maybe they don't want to give out their secrets. Maybe they're afraid that what people will do with that information.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that if you mentioned this topic to them, they would think that you're nuts. And that movie, the goat movie, The Men That Stare at Goats, they probably think that there's no way that that's a true story.
Right.
And I understand that if you don't, so you're never going to convince everybody.
No. Not worth the energy.
No, definitely. So, like I had mentioned, this isn't necessarily something that just like you can do without training. Everything really takes practice. Everything takes learning how to do it and patience. one of the biggest, most important things with this is meditation. And I say that all the time. But it really, because it clears your mind. I was talking to this guy the other day. He messaged me, and he was working with a spirit animal, and he was worried about things that the spirit animal was saying to him. And I said, look, if you're feeling negative things, if you're hearing negative things, you need to meditate. Because your spirit guides, the spirit animals, all of this stuff, you're not going to hear, see, feel negative things unless your mind is clouded. Mm-hmm. So meditate. It clears those voices, those doubts, everything. And it's not as hard as people think it is. It's really not. Like now, because I do it every day, I can do it on command. So I can do the remote viewing. Like if I sat here for just a minute and relaxed, I could do the remote viewing because, I've been practicing it.
Right.
But you have to learn that first. You can't just go, I'm going to remote view and just sit there and, whatever state of mind you're in. It just isn't going to work.
Right.
And then you need to relax and get comfortable. Once you've done some of this meditating, you want to relax and get comfortable and close your eyes. Now, of course, it's hard, like if you want to take notes or whatever, to close your eyes and take notes. So this is where you could like voice record yourself, or you could have somebody, sitting in the room. This was probably something for me that was a problem because I should have done that. I should have had you, like when I was viewing these things, had you write it down instead of me, like, coming out of it and that kind of thing.
Right.
When you get better at it, you can just sit there and, write it out and draw it. But I think at the beginning, you really need that focus.
Right.
Let's see. Describe but don't identify. So you want to look for colors, like the color of things, the size, the shape, anything that will give you like an idea, of what you're seeing, but not actually looking at the whole object.
Mm. Real fast,
yes.
Can you... It's an idea. I don't know if this works. I know when you're kind of meditating, you're viewing, can you like just record it audibly for yourself?
Yeah.
And then that way, when you're looking at it, you can just say, I see this, I see this.
Yeah, absolutely.
This way you don't have to try to memorize afterwards and write it down afterwards. Yes. You know what I mean? You can just say it right then, record it,
I need
voice
to do that,
record
yes.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because otherwise, like what I was doing, it just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
I was getting the things, but I wasn't getting deep enough, like I said. So, let's see. Okay, the subconscious mind doesn't communicate in language. So you're not going to get necessarily like words or things when you're doing the remote viewing. You're going to get more like the shapes and the colors and those types of things. Mm-hmm. Let's see. The person that is doing the viewing is called the viewer. And the viewer will often get quick bits of information like flashes. So like a shape might come in really quick. Like when I was talking to Chelsea and I saw a ball and then I saw red. And then what I did is I combined them and thought, is it a red ball? Like, why am I seeing red? Because I'm just seeing a color. And I still don't know what the ball was. Or I thought it might have been an apple. And she's like, well, I have apples in the kitchen. I'm like, nah, that's not what I'm talking about, So, yeah. But it's, little bits of flashes and stuff that come in. Write everything down and record your notes, like we said. Mm-hmm. Pay attention to the sensory and dimensional information. List absolutely everything that you hear, smell, see, taste, because you might even get those types of things, like the smells and everything. Be as detailed as you can. And then, sometimes you can start drawing these things. We both watched the video that I sent you. Mm-hmm. What's on Vice? It was a show on Vice, and they were talking to a remote viewer, and I thought that this was really cool that they actually did an experiment with him. How many people did they send out? 5, I think. So they sent I
thought I just saw the one guy.
Okay, yeah, there was the one.
No, you're right. Never mind.
There was
5 people.
Yeah, there was one guy that they sent out.
Right.
And what he did is he went to a unspecified location and he looked at this location and he took everything in and he was just thinking about it. And then the viewer was back at this office that they were at and he was writing down everything that this guy was seeing to the point where he said now he's like looking. He's looking at something for a long period of time. Do you remember that? I can't remember.
Turned his head and was focusing on something.
He was focusing. Yeah. So this guy was so good that he could get like down to what this guy was actually doing.
Right.
It like how I see that, like with the animals. That's how he was seeing with this guy. It seemed like, and so he was kind of like drawing and writing things down of what he was seeing, and then. What they had 5 different people who had to look at a picture of what the viewer was seeing and then look at what the viewer drew and his notes and stuff and say, are these a match? Is this...
They gave him multiple pictures.
They did give... You're right. They did give him multiple pictures.
Tell us where the person that was being viewed was standing out of these pictures according to that guy's notes.
Yes.
The viewer's notes.
And then they asked them to rate their how confident they were in that choice, and most of them said 5 out of 5 that they were convinced that the picture matched what he was saying, and I think only one said 3 of 5 because what he said was general. What he said was not general. No. He was so specific.
Yeah,
but that was probably somebody.
She was only saying it about one thing. I think that's where she did the 3 out of 5 because there was one part. I think it was the rock.
Oh.
That because he said there was some sort of permanent structure.
Yeah.
And it was a sort of a big rock they built like a park around or something. So.
Yeah. But it was pretty cool. I was really impressed with what that guy could do.
Yeah, it was good.
Very cool. Yeah. You can probably look that up on YouTube is where I found it. It was Vice channel remote viewing was the name of it. So let me see what else I have for you on this topic, if anything. Let me tell you about when I did this with Sherry.
Oh, yeah.
So Sherry and I did this a little bit differently. I wanted her to be in a certain room in her home just to pick the room that she was going to be in. And then I wanted to tell her what I saw around her. Now, I did this before I did the reading that said to try and focus on the objects, like on the shapes instead of on actually what the objects were. But there were a few things that I saw. One was that the floor was white. It didn't look like carpet, but I was like, that's weird. It just looks like white linoleum, but no, it was white carpet. And then I saw where her TV was and that it was a rectangular TV. What I saw really was the rectangle against the wall. So it was more of a shape that I saw. There was also something that I kept seeing that was glass and not a window, but it might have been the sliding glass doors. We're not sure what the glass part was. Let's see, what else did we talk about? I think that's it. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Like when I do this, I try and picture like what the room looks like that they're in. And I sometimes it's very accurate and sometimes the room's kind of like flipped around or whatever, but I'm still getting the same general idea. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was kind of cool to do that. And then Jahan helped me as well. Like I said, let's see. That's right. With her, what I did is I just asked her to go like someplace in her house and just stand there or wherever, inside, outside. And so she went out in her backyard. And what I saw was a lot of green, like just lots and lots of green. And then I saw water. I knew that there was some kind of water there. And so I was thinking that maybe it was like an open area of grass to the ocean, maybe because she was in India. I was thinking like maybe she was close to the ocean. But what actually it was that she had a pool, and I was seeing a lot of white too, and I didn't know what the white was, but the white was the chairs and stuff around the pool. Right. So I was seeing the pool, the white chairs, and then behind it was the grass. So
wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's cool.
Cool experimenting. I'm a psychic, so I work on my abilities all day, every day. Most people will not be able to just sit down and be able to get into it like this. Yeah. So don't look at, what I've done as what the average person will do on their first couple of tries. Right. I also have realized that I have been using this my whole life. Right. I didn't realize that. Yeah. I didn't realize I was remote viewing. I don't know why. I look back at it now. I'm like, you've been doing this since you were a kid. But so yeah, I have more experience in it than I realized. So it takes time and patience. But man, how cool is it? I've used this, I don't know, I think I've told you this before, when I used to do pet sitting, and there was a dog that I used to walk twice a day, and the second time of the day was like right around 4:00. And on Mondays, our gardeners come. And so I was wondering one day if the gardeners had come yet while I was walking Murphy. And so I just kind of tried to look at the house to see if the truck was out front or anything. And I didn't see the truck. I didn't see anything. And then I tuned into Zuma and I asked him, have the gardeners been there? No. So those types of things, I've been doing those for a long time, not realizing that that's remote viewing. I just thought that was a part of my psychic ability.
Yeah.
So,
it's cool.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
There's so many things that are possible that if we just kind of let our guard down and experimented with them.
Yeah, it's not
really
bad.
possible.
It's the mind is just so incredibly powerful, I think Jahan is a great example of that, and it has a lot to do with what you're told at a very young age.
Right.
What is real, what's not real, what's possible, what's not possible.
Right.
And I think she fortunately grew up in a very open-minded society that said, no, there's a lot of benefits and pleasure to this, if you use it responsibly.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I still get fascinated with listening to you talk about it, and sort of, I want to see it from I want to see it like a movie to sort of interpret how you're seeing it, right? So when you say, like with Sherry's situation in that viewing, that some of it seemed flip-flop.
Yeah.
It's like, isn't that weird that when the information comes in and the translation to you could flip it?
Yeah. It's strange because I do get a lot of visions like that too, where like I'll see maybe something that, like a white car, but I think it's a white truck and it ends up being a white car instead of a truck or something like that. We have been looking at houses and I have this pretty good idea of what the shape of our house is going to be like. I've even drawn it out.
Right.
So that would pretty much be considered remote viewing too. But I'm expecting that when we do find this house that it will probably, things might be flipped because that it does that, like you said, for whatever reason, it's like, well, this is here.
Or a suggestion I was thinking, too, that popped in my head just now was that maybe in her room there could have been like a mirror.
Yeah, there could be.
Like a closeted mirror or a large mirror that made you see something flipped.
Right. Yeah, or this glass that I was seeing was actually a mirror. I'll have to ask her that because I
heard mirror.
Yeah. Sorry about the snoring Great Dane, by the way. He's really going at it.
Like buzzsaw.
Yeah, and he's right behind me. And it's funny because you said that right before we started, Like, oh, Zoom, he's all relaxed and laying down. You're like, yeah, here comes the snoring.
Yeah, as soon as we start talking, we put him to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least it's better than that. Better than like him wanting to chew on a bone or something. That's better than, him being, because he does that sometimes. He's all up in our business.
That's too much.
Yeah. So we'll take the snoring, so sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's not in the audio. It's in the room.
It's in the room, yeah. Thank goodness the other one's not snoring, too.
Oh, man.
But, yeah.
That's how much we love our babies.
Yeah, we do. So yeah, that's what I got for you on the subject.
That's cool.
Yeah, I really found this interesting, and I definitely want to learn more about it. And I also, like I said, next week I want to do telepathy. So I'm going to throw this out there now. Anybody that's listening, if you would like to work with me on the telepathy, Danny and I have this natural telepathy.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on it together, but really that's so easy for me that it probably, I want a challenge. I want to try and work with people like where somebody will, think something or they'll look at something and then telepathically send that information to me, like how I do with animals. So that's what I'm looking to do next week. So if anybody would like to help me and work with me on that, email me, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And sometimes I wonder that with us, like, is that just like a twin flame thing?
Right.
Or is that like, because often we do it with dinner,
Yeah, the dinner.
What do you feel like for dinner? And I'll say, we have no reason to lie to each other. So I'll say, Tico's Tacos is one of my favorite. And she goes, that's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Yeah.
And then it'll be reversed. And I'll ask her what and I would go, that was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it's a strange,
Yeah. We also like sniff, cough, all kinds of things at the same time. I don't know if you picked that up, but sometimes I'm just like, how is that possible? We move our hands the same way at the same time, almost like it's the same person I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, this is too weird for me. Like, what's going on?
Well, it's cool because your friend that you just met recently, who did the reading for you, the medium, said that you and Marina and I were a gang of souls that have gone through many lives together.
Yeah, I believe it.
And we finally found each other in this life, and we're like sort of happy with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Know? So it made sense because I was like, wow, I really connect with her on so many.
Yeah.
I mean, I always felt connected to Marina.
Yeah.
Because she's mine.
Right.
And I've just tried to,
Yeah.
And I remember one time when she was a baby, maybe just days old, we brought her home and I took a nap with her on my chest, and I concentrated on her energy and connecting with her like as an infant, and I felt this like zaps of energy,
right?
And sometimes a little bit of this, like the hair standing up on your arm. There was a connect, and the reason why that happened, I believe, and this was something that happened many years ago, and I'm now understanding what that is, and that's because I simply asked for it.
Right.
I simply asked to be connected to this child, and more than just, hey, I'm your dad.
Right, totally.
And the way things have worked, it's like you can see that.
Yep.
That bond was made that moment when I asked for it.
Right.
I didn't, I hope, or I wonder.
Right.
I just simply asked, and it came.
Yeah.
So
that's all you have to do is ask.
A lot of this is that.
Yeah.
Like things that we're talking about is just simply your mind.
It is.
And really the power of it is incredible.
And it really, like, you and I have a very, very strong connection, like you said. And some people, they are like, oh, man, I wish that I could have that. And you know what? You can. Everybody can have it. It doesn't happen right away. I think people want that to happen right away, or they want to force it with the wrong person. But you have to, like, develop with somebody. You have to get to the point to where, like, you make me crazy and I make you crazy, but you know what? You're the most important person in the world to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely. You have to just get to that point where you understand each other's things and it just doesn't matter anymore. And you don't worry anymore about the relationship. And I think that that's when you can get to this point where the telepathy works more. When you can let your guard down with somebody and just say, I know this person isn't going to do anything to hurt me. I know that, we're in this together.
Right.
But it takes time. It does. And it takes a lot of work. Relationships are a lot of work. This first year of our spiritual journey, they worked with us on our marriage.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. And I'm so grateful for that because it did get us to this place.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh,
we weren't always. I mean, we were happy together, but we had issues. Like everybody has issues.
Yeah.
But it was really about
learning to communicate.
Yeah. Acknowledging them and just saying, okay, how do we move forward with this?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Once all this came, it was like, whoa. Yeah. Okay, now my whole look on everything has changed. Yeah. On just. I could go on for another 4 episodes about just how everything has changed.
Everything,
And for the better, not by any means for the worse.
Yeah. It's just like anything else. It's about the time and work that you want to put into it. And if you think that it's too much work, then you're just, setting yourself up for something. But what else do we have while we're here but time? And we're here to work on these things. We're here to learn. We're not here to sit on our phones, even though, I spend a lot of time on mine too. I'm not going to lie. But we're here to fix these relationships, work on these relationships, build these things with people, Right. So it doesn't come easy. No. It's all work. So I just wanted to put that out there that you can have that kind of telepathic connection too, with somebody. You just have to work on it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
And I think it could be done from very far away from each other, too.
Oh, it doesn't matter where it is. I mean, you can see, Jahan is in India.
Yeah.
I work with people all over the world. A lot of people in Australia. A couple weeks ago, I got to work with somebody off the coast of Africa, but not Madagascar, next to Madagascar. I've worked with people in Madagascar before, but this was even a smaller island. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like, whoa, trip, Wow. It doesn't matter where you are. Telepathy has no bounds. Nope. It has no boundaries at all. Nope. So I'm excited to talk about that next week, because that is used in the remote viewing, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a big part of just that, this whole kind of picture of what you're able to do with your mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Is step outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And sort of take a look around. But,
yep.
Cool.
Yes,
sir. Killer.
I thought so.
Well, before we say goodbye to our friends, do you want to share your page?
Sure. So my website is SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can learn everything you'd like to know about me there. I do get asked a lot, how is the best way to set up an appointment with me? Just message me. You can message me on Facebook or email spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. Just shoot me an email that way. I'm working on a scheduling program, but it's not perfected yet, where they can just go online and schedule.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Very
and
good.
you, sir.
Oh, yes. For my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram and Facebook. And for the music, gypsybrown.com for the web, at gypsybrownmusic for Instagram, and at gypsybrownband for Facebook. And got some mixes back lately.
Yeah.
Very excited. Our friend Jason, who plays with Alanis Morissette, did one. Incredible.
It's really good.
Really
I'm so
good.
excited.
So,
yeah.
And just got another one today from another gentleman. So,
yeah.
And our friend John is working on another one. So we're
moving forward.
Plugging away. COVID's definitely slowed it down. No doubt about that. But
it's
won't stop
timing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm excited just to hear them back like how you envision them.
Yeah. It's exciting.
So, anyways, that's it for me.
Yay.
Well, we hope everybody got something out of this.
We do.
I did. It was pretty cool. I like getting into stuff like that.
Me too. I had fun with this.
And next week we'll do a little bit more of it with the telepathy.
Yes.
Well, we hope everybody has a great week.
Yep.
Until next week.
Peace and love.